So first of all, I'm going to show you the most basic, most straightforward way to use lookalike audiences, and that is simply to load it as the audience that you're going to target in your ad set. So as you can see, these lookalike audiences here, they're targeting one country, and that's the US. So I'm just going to click this. I'm going to click Create Advert. Be sure not to use multiple lookalike audiences in one ad set. So it's just going to load up now. Okay, so I'm just going to click conversions because this, I'm not going to actually run this ad. I want to quickly get to the ad set level so I can actually show you how to use your lookalikes and your custom audiences in your advertising, because there's no point knowing how to make them. There's no point making them if you don't know how to use them and if you're not planning on using them. And check this out, this little tip here has appeared. I've not seen this before, but that's quite funny because you've just learned how to do these. And now you can see that Facebook even suggests that you should do these because they're such good audiences to test. Anyway, I'm going to click a conversion event. But you don't need to worry about that. What you need to worry about is this area here. So you can add custom audiences and lookalike audiences to your targeting. Until now, we've used the location, age, gender, and languages, and then we've used interest-based targeting. You might have tried flex or stacking, as I call it, as I discuss in previous sections of videos. What we haven't looked at is the custom audience and lookalike audience feature. So what we're going to do is we're going to target our lookalike audience, and this is how you do it. You can click it and you'll be given a full list of all your audiences, or you can click lookalike audiences and it'll filter to lookalikes, or you can click customs and it'll filter to customs. So I'm going to use this lookalike audience in the US, 1% of people who are similar to people who've watched 75% of my videos. So I've just clicked it and that has now populated this. And as you can see, my potential reach has changed. And it's automatically added the United States as a location. Sometimes it doesn't do this, in which case you do have to type in the country that the lookalike is, populated from. But that is how you use a lookalike audience in an ad set. It's very simple, very straightforward, and anyone can do it. You can also exclude audiences. You just click the exclude button as I just did. And it's often common practice to exclude the custom audience that you created the lookalike audience from. And a lot of people do tell you to exclude the other lookalike audiences that have been made from the same source if you have made multiple lookalike audiences, as I've done so. And to do that, you just click each one and add them in like that. So that's how you include and exclude lookalike audiences and custom audiences. Obviously, I've only showed you lookalike audiences, but the same principle applies. It's just clicking on custom audience and clicking it if you want to target these people. And that's it. Very simple, very straightforward. As you can see, actually US has appeared now. Clickable, removable. You have to ensure that a lot of people, they will try and use a lookalike audience, right? They'll upload the lookalike audience to this section here. I'll just do it now. And the audience size will say that there's no one in the audience, or it will say there's 1.9 million people in this audience, as it says here, and they'll continue down. They'll think, yeah, all good, all good. I'm just going to run that now. They'll click continue, they'll place their order. And then after a few days, they'll come back and check their ad, and it won't have spent a penny. And it's happened to me before, and that's because I've forgotten to put the location in. So you just type in the location associated with the lookalike audience if it hasn't already auto-populated this part of the ad set for you. And now that we have a location, it will definitely start spending. So that is how you use lookalike audiences and custom audiences in your targeting. You simply upload it here. There isn't a real need to adjust the ages and genders because the lookalike audience is being populated using previous information. But of course you can change these if you like, if you want to actually constrain this lookalike audience, which I'll go into in the next. Now what we'll do is look at something that not a lot of people realize they can do, not a lot of people test, which is always a bad thing. You should always be testing, and that is constraining lookalike audiences using the demographics features, using the age and gender and the language, and even the location. Currently, we're targeting 1.9 million people who are similar to people who've watched 75% of our videos. And if you can't remember how I created this, you can head back to the lookalike section and you can watch me create that. So currently we're targeting this whole lookalike audience, this whole 1.9 million people between the ages of 18 to 65. Now what if I know that the people on my website, they're all women? What if I'm selling women's products? I don't particularly want to be targeting this whole 1.9 million lookalike audience. So all I'm going to do, while this audience is likely to convert very well because it's a lookalike audience, I can make them convert even more so. I can make this even more targeted by using these features here. So I'm going to click women because let's say I'm selling a women's product. And also, I'm actually selling to, let's say, I'm selling to US teens between the ages of 16 and 24. So I'm just going to do this, and you'll see the audience, the potential reach change. It's gone down by 700,000 from that 1.9 to 1.2. So we've just removed 700,000 people from this lookalike audience. So what I'm trying to say here is, while lookalike audiences are extremely useful to use on their own, it is worth adding or editing or changing the settings here if you need to. If you already know your audience, if you know their age range, if you know their gender, and if your website's in a specific language, of course, add that in too. So you can make this lookalike audience even more targeted, and it's much more likely to get better results. If you know your audience, it's definitely worth testing an ad set where you have constrained a lookalike audience. And of course, you can also use interests, which not a lot of people, again, realize they can do. So we'll go on to this bit in the next video. I want to show you this bit too. You can use the location. And okay, yeah, the lookalike audience is US based. So obviously our locations have to be within the US. But let's say the majority of our traffic comes from big cities in the US, not the outlying little villages and suburbs and things like that. You can just click this arrow here and click include cities only. And look at that, the potential reach has gone down. So that's one way of doing it. If you know that your customers come from just the big cities, or if you just want to target the big cities, big, well-populated areas of the US. Alternatively, you can either exclude states, cities, regions that don't convert for you. For example, let's go Texas, county. Oh, sorry, you have to include first. So let's include the United States. then we're going to constrain this by excluding Texas. And there you go, it's gone down to 1.1. So we've removed 100,000 people. Let's say, for example, for some reason, you don't ship to Texas, something like that. Or perhaps it's against the laws in Texas, I don't know. But for some reason, you don't want to target people in Texas. You need to make sure that you're doing this. You're adding this constraint. You're excluding the people in Texas from this lookalike audience. Because if you don't, you're going to spend money on reaching those 100,000 people, and it's going to be a waste of money. So yeah, let's say Arizona as well. You're not shipping to Arizona for some reason, and it's gone down another 100,000. So we're making this audience more precise here. Another way of doing this is, of course, instead of including the US and excluding counties, states, you simply include the list of states that you ship to. So let's go California. Let's go New York. There we go. 160,000 people in this lookalike audience. So, as I said before in the previous video, this lookalike audience by itself is going to be incredibly targeted. They're very catered towards what you are putting out there, what content you're posting. Because the lookalike audience source is made up of a custom audience of people who viewed 75% of your video. People who viewed this content and enjoyed it enough to watch 3/4 of it. So this lookalike audience in itself is already very catered toward what you're selling, what content you're putting out there. But if you can constrain it, perhaps you're only selling to people in California or New York, or you run a business and it's got 2 physical locations in California and New York, then you can make this even more precise, even more catered to you by either adding the US or the country and excluding places that you're not bothered about, or by just including the specific places that you are bothered about. And again, you can always, if you want to do it very quickly, you can just put in the US. Just to remind you, you can put in the US, use the drop down arrow, and include cities only. If that's something that is appealing to you, definitely try that out. Widened the targeting back to all 16 to 65, and I'll put in the US, just the US there, because now we're going to look at how using interests to constrain a lookalike audience works. So we come down to our detailed targeting here, and the reason I'm covering this is because it can be confusing because of the words include and exclude. Now, you're already including 2 million people. So if you're adding interests here, the word include suggests that this is going to increase. It's going to also include people of these interests. It's going to target this lookalike and people of these interests. However, what you're doing here is constraining the lookalike audience. This 2 million people are going to be downsized. They're going to be narrowed down to people in this lookalike audience that match the demographics here that we've put in, and they're going to match these interests. So this is going to decrease as we add interests. So we use the same interests as we used last time, or similar interests that we used last time. But do remember, this lookalike audience is made up of people that are very similar to these people who viewed the video, 75% of the video. So they're going to be made up of people of similar age ranges, gender, location, and interests. So you may not see a big narrow down of this 2 million people, but it is, again, definitely worth testing out and having a look at. So I'm going to keep going. We're going to go aerial. Still 2 million. Still 2 million. And remember, this is for the Mermaids Are Awesome page. Still 2 million. Let's say we are using this audience to promote, I don't know, a mermaid, a mermaid wedding dress or something like that. I don't know why anyone would buy one, but if you know, you never know. So I'm going to go demographics, life events. Yeah, let's say their anniversary is coming up, okay? Let's forget the mermaid wedding dress thing. Let's say their anniversary is coming up, and you know they may want something to do with mermaids because they're so interested in mermaids. So I'm going to add these demographics in, and there we go. I don't usually use demographics, but I just wanted to show you that you can constrain these audiences using the interest, using the detailed targeting section. So this lookalike audience, not only are they very similar to these people, this custom audience, they live in the US, between these ages, this gender, and they speak English. They also like one of these. They like The Little Mermaid, Ariel from The Little Mermaid. They like The Little Mermaid film, and their anniversary is within 60 days. So not only are these people incredibly interested in the content that you have to put out there, they also have their anniversary coming up in 60 days, which means you can target these people with an ad to do with mermaid anniversary gifts, for example. Just off the top of my head, that is an example. Obviously, I don't expect anyone in this course to be selling mermaid anniversary gifts, but if you are, then congrats, you've just got some free targeting. But that is how you constrain the audience. And it's probably worth unticking this box for lookalike audiences. Or maybe not. Look at that, fewer than 1,000 people. So if I remove that, 11,000 people. If I click this box again, it should go up 2 million people. So 2 million people in this lookalike audience are the potential reach here. But actually, that's only because I've expanded the interests. If I remove that, the potential reach comes down to 11,000. So of the people in this lookalike audience, only 11,000 match these interests. If I remove these interests, it'll go up. There we go. 1.4 million people are interested in these interests, at least one of these interests. So even just with this interest box, we've constrained it from 2 million to 1.4 million people. So maybe you're going to put some content out that's related to Disney. So you only want people that like Disney, and that is how you would do it. So there you go. And of course, remember to edit your placements when you're running lookalike audiences. The same principles still apply. I still suggest removing audience network and in-stream videos and instant articles. And of course, you can still do the device settings, device targeting. But that is how you constrain lookalike audiences using the detailed targeting area. Lookalike audiences, I showed you how to create lookalike audiences using multiple countries. So this lookalike audience here, for example, has 1, 2, 3, 4 countries, whereas this lookalike audience has 1 country. So now I'm going to show you exactly what I told you to do in the previous section, which was me talking about creating 4 different ad sets. I appreciate that you perhaps didn't know what I meant, so I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to tick the lookalike audience that I want to use, which is this one. I'm going to click Create Ad. Okay. I'm going to click Engagement, just because I feel like it. I'm not actually going to run these ads, so it doesn't matter which objective I pick. Of course, when it comes to you doing this, you're going to know which objective you should be choosing. And because we ticked the lookalike audience and click create ad. The custom audience is already populated with the ticked lookalike audience, as you can see. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Here's what I was talking about. We currently have 4 countries in this, people from 4 different countries in this lookalike audience. You don't really want to run ads to people in lookalike audiences that are in different countries. If you have lookalike audiences made up of people from various different countries, like this one, the best thing to do is to separate these into separate ad sets. So our first ad set, we're going to run to AU, which is Australia. All I'm going to do is constrain this lookalike audience to people who live in Australia. And as you can see, there are 160,000 people in this lookalike audience that live in Australia. That's 160,000 out of 2.7 million. So if you're creating lookalike audiences using multiple different countries, it is definitely worth running however many separate ad sets required. For this, it would be 4 for 4 different countries. So all I would do is continue, click through. So all I would do now that I've added Australia, is just click through the ad set, finish all this, do my creative, and then run the ad. And then I'd come back to the asset library, I'd click create advert again. I'd create the exact same advert, but this time what I would do, it would be Canada, CA. It would be Canada this time, not Australia. 200,000 people. And then I'd come again and I'd do the UK and US, which are these others here. And so out of this lookalike audience, I've managed to run 4 different ad sets to 4 different countries. So that's how you deal with lookalike audiences made up of multiple countries. There is a quicker way of making these, and that is by duplicating ad sets. I'll show you how to duplicate ad sets later on in the course.